Warning. The following content may contain elements that are not suitable for some audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon. There's no good morning on this unless you're in the Asia Pacific region, which you're not. I know that because nobody ever cares about me down there. So, good afternoon, good evening, and if you're in Europe, very, very late good night. Thanks for being here one more time. Whispered Insights, episode number something in the teens, 17, 18, something like that. We don't count them anymore because we're doing such a good job. We'll keep doing this forever. The numbers don't matter. Last two shows of the year. Today we have an excellent, amazing, special show. I'll tell you that in a moment. Next week, the last show of the year. All my co-hosts, Dr. Lauren Vargas, PhD, Liz Miller, the one, the only, the amazing Alan Bergson, and of course, the Broheimer, Mr. Jonathan Reed. They will all join me to have a very, very, very light discussion on what we learned this year, what were some of the top insights, and what we're looking forward to in the next year. The schedule for next year, I have it all worked out through the first couple months, but I don't have it in front of me, and I don't want to lie to you, but we have some amazing shows coming up. We're going to continue on the topic of Transmedia. We're going to continue on the topic of making decisions. We're going to continue doing a lot of things that you guys have been listening to. I appreciate all of you coming live. I appreciate more all of you listening in delayed mode because that's most of the audience. If you join us live, you can make comments. You can be part of the conversation. You can do all the good things. Anyways, enough about that. On to the show today. I am excited, stoked, happy, whatever word you want to add, to have my next guest on camera today. The reason for this is she's one of the few people I know that have been living the concept of transmedia for the last few years. And as we kick off this very, very, very important topic, as I said in my introduction and my tease on LinkedIn, I want to talk about how we're going to do this and what it means to us as an organization, as an enterprise, as people, part of the enterprise, as executives, and how we can address that. So without any further ado, and so I won't ruin her reputation, here is my guest, Raffaella Camera. Did I say that right? I said it wrong, right? I said your last name wrong.
You said it wrong.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm horrible. Raffaella.
The name was perfect. Raffaella
Camera. Okay, there you go.
It's a pleasure to chat with you, Esteban.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. So let's do something. Let me not ruin your reputation. Give us a brief 30 seconds to 2-minute introduction and who you are and how you got here, what you've been doing. And then we get into the topic with simple questions like, how do we solve all the world's problems, cure cancer and all that stuff. But let's start with who you are. Who are you?
I'm an Italian who transferred to Los Angeles a few years ago for my master's in business. I spent the first half of my career in advertising, mostly digital advertising, as an account director on a variety of different industries, from automotive to CPG to retail to fashion to entertainment for companies like Publicis Sapient, 72 and Sunny. I then started working in AR around 2010, 2011, at the very, very beginning of AR, where you still had to use a marker and the camera of the laptop because smartphones were not strong enough and powerful enough. Through that, I went to start and lead strategy for the global XR practice at Accenture as a partner there. So anything from the more B2B use cases, how to use AR, VR, and 3D for efficiency, internal efficiency, all the way out to marketing and commerce. During that time, I met a gentleman named Mark Petit, former GM of Unreal Engine at Epic Games, and I joined Epic Games as head of brands on the Unreal Engine side. So setting up the industry, the vertical for anything that is luxury, lifestyle, so fashion, apparel, beauty, retail, jewelry, and then its connection into entertainment, mostly music and sports, and anything really that fell under the Epic ecosystem umbrella. So really starting from the creation of assets and experiences using the tools that Epic has, from Unreal Engine to MetaHuman Creator, so on and so forth, the libraries of assets, and then creating experiences directly to Fortnite Creative, the UGC part of Fortnite, and then IP directly into Fortnite and Fortnite Battle Royale or in other games.
I'm exhausted just hearing all that. But let's not forget the part where you actually are a classically trained musician in addition to all that, right?
Yeah, I am. And the nails speak for that, or the lack of.
Yeah. So So here's a person with like very little ambition in the world, no skills whatsoever. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So the reason I wanted to talk to you is precisely what he said. I mean, starting in the early days, you were doing the like AR VR. You started with the very, very early stuff before most people knew what it was. You've been doing, what we call today Transmedia, which is managing all the different channels as one for the organization before anybody else did it. Let's start with the early days. Let's start a little bit with AR VR. I mean, is that stuff still around? I mean, are we still seeing AR VR being done by organizations or companies or brands or anyone?
I think we're seeing a lot of AR in different places. I think the idea of AR taking over the world or VR taking over the world, depending on the year that we were discussing things with people, has not happened or it hasn't happened yet. I think one of the places where we see AR the most is for simple functionality. If we have to dumb it down to something super simple, anything like viewing the menus, right, through pointing the camera at something that really became popular during COVID, that's an AR application. But certainly, I think the master of anything that is AR related is still Snap and Snapchat. And so all the lenses and everything that we're talking about for lenses are really AR. They are AR lenses. And so different ways of doing that. The holy grail of AR is when we will have AR glasses that are powerful enough, light enough, and with enough of a field of view that will really let us walk around normally and have enough useful information and applications showcased in a
Yeah.
immersive enough way to be able to do that. On the VR side, probably it's a little bit more on the entertainment and health care side.
I was going to say, for most enterprises, what you mentioned, a lens with a superimposed content is what they consider AR VR, right? I mean, it's very used in field services. You go to service a machine, you don't know what to do, you need directions. I know that Boeing had a great case study where, like, the mechanics would be able to use the special goggles that like told them what to do. That's what most enterprises know about AR VR. But this is the part that is interesting. When you were in Accenture doing this, how do you counsel organizations to actually embrace the concepts of like, new media, like, virtual reality and things like that?
You go from an angle of efficiency or increased efficiency. So is there a better way to do the same task, do it with less, producing less errors and faster and requiring less training? So even when I'm talking about AR, I think there are different levels of fidelity that you can get. So you can even talk about simple glasses where you just see some of the information, or you can pull up manuals while you're out in the field and you're doing a specific task, and maybe you can talk to your manager who's in the office and they can see through your glasses what you're looking at. That would be a very, very simple type of way of doing that. But I think what's more interesting is for, again, repairs for Boeing had a really good case where using I think it was the Microsoft the Microsoft goggles, they could repair engines directly in less errors. So all those things I think are pretty, still they have become pretty standard. It's an easier way of or it's a more efficient and, again, less error prone way of doing things.
And this is basically a beginning. This is when you begin to look into, different channels and different media and how to manage that, right? Because if you're an organization, if you're a Boeing, and you need to give this to your mechanics, you need to find a way to like mesh all the content that you have and all the training that you have and the technology and everything. So this is to me, it's the beginning of transmedia. Would you say something like that, or? I mean,
Yeah.
you're smarter than I am at this, so it's just asking for you to validate what I know, which is very little.
There are many different ways. There are words that are being used, recently to describe, I think at the end of the day, a little bit of the same thing. You hear a lot about transmedia, you hear a lot about phygital, you hear a lot about 3D, you hear about the metaverse sometimes. All that it is I think we're in the midst of a digital transformation from 2D to 3D. Really, everything is based in 3D. It's something that started probably about 10 years ago, at least, where most of the tools and even the types of interactivity come from the technology comes really from gaming environments, because those were the first companies that had to try to figure out, how do I create a 3D type like environment, and then how do I make sure that I have the tools to showcase those experiences in real time with a certain level of fidelity. And that has been brought through then in on the enterprise side to design stores and see what they might look like, to even test where to place products in different supermarkets, to do repairs, to do R&D, to do training. And then on the direct to consumer side, you're really looking at modifying and going from 2D images to 3D images or 3D viewers for commerce sites. You're looking at now showcasing, instead of going through an e-commerce site or a .com and having a list of products, can you actually create an experience that's more gaming-like? And while you do that, you get to explore products, you get to do things like that, all the way into how do you represent your brand, your products directly in a creative gaming environment, like a Fortnite, like a Roblox, like a Sandbox, where you actually have a presence there and you can showcase your products as digital products, as digital clothing, as a digital store. You can reach consumers in different way with a much, much longer period of time spent with your brand. We're talking about 20, 30 minutes.
So you're dropping a lot of different things here. I want to be able to try to stay in track, but you mentioned the multiverse, right, as one of the examples of this stuff. A lot of people would tell you the multiverse failed in the enterprise. I mean, and I'm talking about the enterprise because that's my world. I know your world is more consumer and customer B2C, but I'm trying to bring all the information that you have into the enterprise, right? For the enterprise, the multiverse failed because people could not figure out what it was. And yet for you, this was one of the biggest stepping stones for what you've done on Epic. Am I going that?
I don't think it's true that it failed. I think that the word failed. I think that the big PR activity that there was behind, Facebook rebranding into Meta and the big push that was around that, I think that failed. But if you're looking at even what I was doing at Epic and why enterprises were interested in using 3D tools, leaving aside the more gaming or marketing related activities, but one of the things is, how can I use 3D tools to now design my products directly in 3D, test my products and the materials directly in 3D, create the environments where I will be selling those products directly in 3D, creating even showrooms directly in 3D, because now I don't want to bring, let's take, for example, automotive. Let's not even take something more consumer oriented, but in automotive, pretty much cars are now designed in 3D. R&D is being done in 3D. That is a mix of VR or 3D, on a laptop, or not on a laptop, or a computer. And the creation of 3D materials, 3D paints, 3D everything. You test everything that way. It's faster. It's easier. There is an easier time collaborating with designers that might be across the world. You can reuse the same assets then for anything that could be a configurator that you might end up showing for sales that could view on a computer, but you could also then showcase in a 3D built showroom where you might meet the salesperson virtually, or maybe you do everything yourself. So those things.
But I mean, I agree with you, but those things were not very popular, very, I don't want to use the words failed, but they weren't very successful. They were test environments, or skunk works, or something that didn't go far, or am I missing something? You were more involved in that than I was. I mean, am I missing this? Did I not see it?
I don't think that it failed. I mean, if you're look at BMW is using 3D for pretty much everything, and there is I think what is not clear yet is what is the workflow that should be used, because it's a little bit different depending on the industries, but what is the workflow that ideally will get you to create in 3D or test in 3D and do R&D in 3D, and then carry those same assets and you use those same assets internally for anything that could be training, that could be testing, that could be production itself, all the way to how you then showcase those same products to consumers on commerce channels that you already have. And I think they're all trying to figure that out. And the industries that have done the best job thus far are automotive and media and entertainment.
Why do you think that? Media and entertainment is obvious because this is the bread and butter. For them, it's easy to actually continue into a different scenario. But where do you think that automotive actually, was successful? Why did they embrace it, and how did it work for them?
I think the level of design that automotive or even architecture requires, and being able to see that product. If you're thinking about it, you're producing or you're designing a lot less products that are a lot more expensive with a lot more detail. So being able to do that in 3D is much more advantageous, and it's kind of like the way that they were going towards. In any case, it's just the next phase of digital that moves from 2D to 3D.
In any other place that you see that would be equally as interesting or as, quote unquote, easy to embrace? I mean, any other industry?
Easy, I'm not so sure. I think it will become easier and easier because the ecosystem will evolve more. So the technology will become better, but also there will be more external developers that can help you figure out how to do it. There will be workflows that are a little bit more standardized, and also there will be more standards between the different pieces of software that work. But I think the other industry that's embracing it quite a bit is anything that's consumer goods, I would say. And if you're looking at fashion in particular, for a couple of reasons, because you can think about producing and selling new items that is digital clothing. So there is an entire new business unit, and that is not something to just laugh about, because if you're looking at the economy of any of these creator gaming platforms like Roblox, like Fortnite, like others, the majority of the sales come from the sale of skins or digital outfits or emotes, which is kind of like a little dance or a different pose. And we're talking about billions of dollars already right now.
Okay. So then it has to be a large enough industry. Is that a good way to say it? With sufficient number of customers in order to be a good playground for this.
Yes, or you have to have a use case that's.
You have to. Okay, got it. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. I want to get to the narratives and the big part here, but I just want to make sure that I pave the way, at least the way I think about it, right? So then. This brings us to the next step in your career when we get into gaming, right? And how was that transition? What attracted you to gaming?
I don't know that I was going for gaming itself. I was just going for 3D overall.
Okay.
And if you're looking at 3D, and if we go back to this concept and what we were just talking about, this idea of transmedia, this idea of physical to digital, there are very few companies that are leaders in that. And in that sense, Epic stands out because some companies only do the games, some companies only do the tools and the software. So Unity, for example, works mostly on the tools and the software. If you're looking at Roblox, it's mostly just the game and what it is. Epic has all of it and does it at such a high level of fidelity that is shines in the market. So that was very interesting.
Okay. And then do you find it to be what you wanted as far as a challenge? Do you think that this is a good... I think that gaming is fantastic as a playground for anything that will go into the enterprise later. I mean, most people say that, as you probably know, technologies first go through the traditional industries of adult entertainment and media and entertainment before they get to the enterprise, right? I think that there's a lot more to be done in media, gaming, and entertainment than there is in adult entertainment, but I'm not going to make that judgment call. But did you find that there was enough actually of a playground there to explore 3D and to figure out how to actually work on 3D and bring the 3D world to the mainstream?
Oh God, yeah. I remember when I joined Epic, the amount of information was incredible. I know everybody says that every time that they join a new company, but truly it was. And I remember I asked somebody who had already been there for 8 years, "Hey, when am I going to start feeling comfortable with? Or how long did it take you to feel comfortable with the information?" She said, "Oh, I still don't. There are weeks when I got it, and then a week later I'm like, I don't know what we're doing, and I'm confused because there are so many different moving parts." And Epic in particular is a company that, in good and bad, moves very fast and tests live. So it's even, for being a smaller company, the number of things that are happening are so many that, yes, there was definitely enough for me to not be bored. It was, in that sense, very exciting. Yes.
So what was the first, once you started getting into a new world of 3D, and you come from traditional, your career is not the traditional, but you come from traditional channels. So still we still have online to contend with, we still have media, we still have mail and SMS and messaging, and then now you have 3D and gaming to throw into. What were your first things that you noticed that were interesting to address?
Well, I think what's interesting, what is truly exciting for me is the idea of the holy grail of really having physical and digital, or physical and virtual come together. So the idea of having your own physical presence and your own physical activities reflect in a virtual environment. And when I say virtual environment, it doesn't have to be in VR. It can be, in a digital space online. That could be a game or a gaming like type of thing. But the idea of being able to carry your presence there, the idea to that you can meet your friends, you can go see a movie or go to a concert or play a game or experience a brand, and chat with your friends and do all that and change the way that you look and do all that virtually, the same way that you would, or in a related way as you would physically, to me is very exciting. Even if you take something like music, an artist right now produces a song and a video usually, and then has some form of a deal maybe with a fashion company, and then sells t-shirts and things like that. Well, you can, when you produce those things, you start producing them in 3D. Think about all of that. Now you can put parts of your videos also in a game or a gaming environment, or in a social gaming type of environment. Now you can have some the same clothes that you're showing in the video. Now you can sell them in these specific environments, and so you increase your fan base, and at the same time you make money. All those things you can start extending. All of that can only be done if you start producing from the beginning directly in 3D, or in a way that you can extend it. So what I would like to underline again is that when we're thinking about gaming, there is not just the game itself. There are the tools that are used to create those games. Those are the same tools that enterprises are using to build their training environments internally.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the same tools that are used to create 3D worlds, or to showcase Eminem coming down in Fortnite and doing a concert.
I hold on to that thought, but so Alan says that gaming understands engagement better than most industries. I agree with that. I think that it's not because gaming is a different industry. I think that because gaming understands their users better than most industries. I mean, would you say that's okay? That's ideal. I mean, who are the people, who the gamers are. You know what they're looking for, and even if they come to a 3D world, like you were saying, to listen to a concert, you know what they're looking for, right? I mean, this is what you invest heavily in.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. A game is something that is live and alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's watching a movie or is listening to a song, the person is being served something and just reactive passively to it. In a game, you never know what's going to happen, because that depends on what you do, where you move, who the other players might be, whatever is happening. So it's very similar to real life. If you go to a square, You don't know who you're going to meet, what's going to happen that day, if it's going to rain or not, or depending if you go into a bar, you meet somebody or you don't. In a game, it's the same thing. Depending on where you do things, it's a little bit different. But in physical life, you cannot really ask your consumer what they're thinking and what they're doing all the time. In a game, you know exactly what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what they did, and you can track all of that. So naturally, you have a lot more information about that specific person than you would in life.
Yeah, that's the key, right? I mean, I would say in a 3D world, it's easier to track information about your users, and if you're smart about knowing what that information is, use it to create and generate better engagement.
Yeah, and you also know what works and what didn't work, what worked and what didn't work, right? You know if certain games or certain things failed or did not fail, or how to do it. And by the way, gamers are very vocal, and they will tell you immediately what they want.
Yeah, no kidding. I know that firsthand. I did a project with a gaming company, and that was the first thing that impressed me. It's like I like customers that would be saying like, "Oh, it's okay if you screw up. Don't worry, we'll fix it." And, gamers go like, "You fucked it up. Fix it now. I don't have the time for you to fix it." So yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, so then now we're in a 3D world, and then this is the part that actually to me is fascinating, right? Because I was talking to Alan Bergson and Jeff Gomez a while back about narratives and what we call narrative universes, right? I mean, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the best example that people will relate to. I mean, Star Wars Cinematic Universe, everything's related. So how do you actually, I don't want to say migrate, but how do you create a narrative, a storyline, and a universe, once you get into a new world? This is the part that you did at Epic that fascinated the hell out of me. It's like, I'm not even sure that I understand how to do it, but you did it very well. It's the easiest way to say it.
I don't know that I can take the credit for that. I don't know that I created the storylines.
Take it. Nobody else is here. It's just you and I, so take it.
Yeah. No, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to make a successful game. And one thing that brands or external partners always asked or often asked was, "Hey, can you tell us how to make a successful game," or something like that? And that's not what Epic does, for example. But that is one of the things that's the most needed. So moving forward, I think even the idea of choosing creative talent for a company will be a little bit different. I think it will skew a little bit more towards interactive type of creatives. You know what I mean? They come from these worlds and have done it well, and they know how to do it. It's not going to be just your more typical traditional creative.
So we'll get to creators in a second, because that's one of the critical aspects. I mean, of that. But so you're saying it's like, I'm not sure that I followed. You're saying that the role of the organization, like Epic in this case, was to create the basic universe and then let creators take over, or am I
well, and there is nothing private here in anything that I'm saying, but Epic creates its own games.
Mm-hmm.
And Epic provides the tools to create whatever experience you might want to create externally or or within one of the Epic's properties. That's what I'm trying to say. So Epic does not have a service arm to it.
But the core of all this is I'm gonna get this name wrong, but it's called the Epic Real Engine, or what's the name of the engine?
Unreal Engine. That's the
Unreal Engine. Sorry, yeah, I know. I'm not good with names, Maria. So don't take it wrong.
What is Maria? It's Raffaella.
I don't know, dude. Your name is right there. I still don't get your name right. I'm not good with names, but so this is the part that actually I find the most entertaining, the most interesting of this. It's like, so Epic creates an engine, which is the basic infrastructure, right? Based on this, they build games on top of that, but they give access to other brands to use that engine, and to creators to build mods and other things for the games and everything they do. So in reality, Epic's business is not really the games. That's kind of like a proof of concept, but the engine is what actually they're going for, right? I mean, I'm using Epic as an example, but like take anyone who creates a 3D world, your goal is to create a 3D world with the right narrative, and then let people create subplots out of that. No.
Yeah, depending on what your monetization model is, it could be different.
Yeah.
Talking to Unity is mostly, there seems to be licensing fees and services actually associated to that, because that's the way that they do that. But they also have an advertising model, I believe, attached to that. Each company has a different way that they want to monetize. But no, Epic, the games are extremely important. I shouldn't even call them games, but Fortnite is particularly important for Epic. I think it's interesting to understand what a game engine is and why it's even called a game engine. So if you take the Epic example, Epic has existed now for 32 years, almost, longer than people remember. It started as a game developer, gaming company. So what used to happen is that for each game, you were creating an engine that was running that game, because you're talking about running an experience in real time, where things change constantly, right? It's not like a flat thing that you've already determined what's going to happen. Over time, and in the mid-90s, one of the games that Epic created was called Unreal, and with that, there was an engine attached to that called that for the Unreal game. And at that point, Epic decided to, instead of building a new game engine every time, to just continue iterating on that specific engine and then use it for other games internally, or provide it to creators externally to build their own experiences. And I say experience because it doesn't have to be a game. Again, it can just be that you're trying to build a car. If you're BMW and you want to see what that might look like, and you want to test it, and you want to test the materials and everything else that's related to that, or you want to do training, or you are the army and you want to test a specific scenario, you want to do it in 3D, those kind of things.
So basic, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, you build the world and then you begin to populate it, right, with different things.
Yeah, or you're just building assets. You're building your products that ideally you're going to carry through all the different internally and externally. Internally, even just for the enterprise, to test that product, to see what that looks like compared to a competitive product. When I was at Accenture, one of my clients was P&G, and P&G was, had already been using game engines to create their products in 3D for a while, to see what they look like, to compare them to competitive products, and to do a variety of different things that way. So it's not really that new. It might not be talked about because it's talked about in so many different ways. Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to let you know, this is one of those conversations where I'm barely keeping up with you, just so you know. I'm trying to understand everything, but if I say something stupid, it's nothing personal. It's just me. I'm just getting there. But
I never associate the adjective "stupid" with your name, so don't worry.
Oh, thank you. But no, but this is incredibly interesting, because I think that we're actually starting to we are at the point where everything you've done in the last 5-10 years of your life is what enterprises are facing today. Organizations are facing this today. They need to actually embrace the fact that the world is not, analog or digital, but it's analog plus digital as one. Right? They need to figure it out, that how they're going to continue the investment in the past into the future, because no enterprise can go anywhere without the data and their processes and everything, and that's a fact. And this is when I think that, Epic did a fantastic job with the Unreal Engine. I actually just saw this week Fortnite for Lego, right? Did I get that? I probably get the names wrong, but Fortnite for Lego was released. This is like, so, I don't understand how people don't see this as one of the biggest things in the world right now. This is basically a gaming engine that created a mammoth of a success, which is Fortnite, and now they transformed that into Lego. This is like the storyline of Fortnite became a different narrative subplot for Lego, and they did it in a relatively short period of time, actually. It's been, 2-3 years, 4 years in the making? This is huge. This, in any other time, this because you were in this world before, it would have taken decades. And now in 3-4 years, because of the work that Epic did, it was able to release in a short time. I don't play Fortnite. My kids do, and they tell me it's great. And bless their hearts, the Southern way. I barely understand Lego, so I'm not the target audience for this. But it works well? I mean, I haven't seen it. Does it work well? Is it like, interesting? Is it well done?
Yeah, it's and the characters are adorable. It's this little Lego, you know,
Really?
people like moving around. It's super cute. It works really well. It's basically, I think what's incredible about that, it's the launch of a game within a game.
Right.
And I think you'll see more than that. And by the way, at the same time, Epic also launched festival, Fortnite Festival, which is a music and rhythm game or gameplay within Fortnite itself. But I mean, it shows how you can integrate multiple IPs, and it actually starts showing how you can go from one thing to another, how you create worlds where you can do different things. Right. The announcement was of Lego and Festival and all that was done at the same time with the announcement of the new chapter of Fortnite Battle Royale.
Right.
And with Eminem showing up and
Yeah.
singing three songs virtually. So you can start seeing how we're not talking about a game the way that we used to think about it. You don't just take your console and play a game. You go into a world, and then within that world, you can do different things. You can play different games. And the younger population spends an incredible amount of time and does not distinguish between their friends. The friends in real life are the friends that are also often in these environments. So I think it's important to remember that they're spending more time there than they're watching TV.
I know. Actually, they don't even watch TV that much anymore.
Correct. There are last year 113 million viewers of the Game Awards on different platforms, and I believe it was 13 or 15 million for the Oscars. It's important to remember, because once this generation starts becoming the generation that's in the regular workforce, things will be different.
It's not if, it's now. I mean, this is happening now. You got to remember that the people that were born at the turn of the century, the people that were born even in 2005, which was my youngest daughter, right? 2 years later, by the time the iPhone came out. So these people grew up with digital worlds and everything else. And this was like 18 years ago. So they're 18, they're going to college, they're going into the workforce, they're becoming part of the marketplace. These are the people that we're targeted to right now. And I can tell you from my experience with my kids, they're 18 and 21. We live in very different worlds by magnitudes. I mean, I consider myself to be like, hip or vanguard or whatever you want to call it, but I don't belong in whatever they do, And yes, I have the same level of attention span as a TikTok person, but like I don't belong in that world at all. So it's fascinating to me, this stuff. But the part that actually, the reason I'm saying all this is because this actually brings us to two last things I want to talk about. And this is going fast, but it's going really well. So the two last things I want to talk about. Number one, I want to talk about how enterprises can actually understand and embrace this. And number two, it brings me to your latest experience, which was actually, you were given a world to commercialize. And that's the part that I find fascinating, because I think that going forward, ecosystems of partnerships is the only way that businesses will be able to function. But before we get there, let's talk about the first part that it is. Like, what can enterprises do about this? I mean, can enterprises really embrace the concept? You have experience in this. Some of your partners were like, new to the thing, and you guided them to, and like they got into it. Can they really take advantage of this?
They absolutely can, and I think that the smartest ones are already, without making names, they have been trying to create 3D digital factories or 3D factories of some kind internally,
Mm-hmm.
so that ideally they can go towards that holy grail that I was talking about, where you create a product or an asset in 3D once, and then you reuse it across the entire go-to-market pipeline that your company has. And I'm seeing it more and more. I think where it becomes a little bit difficult is that I think the enterprises themselves, they understand the need, and they even have an idea of how they want to do it. To execute on that, they need strong consulting companies on one side, if you're talking about B2B, or they need strong gameplay type creators on the other. And it's still a little bit, that market is still a little bit funky. I think the consulting companies talk a bigger game sometimes than they have. It's still not clear who is the leader in what. But I really do think that it will be split in two different parts. The consulting companies will be doing more the enterprise side, and I think that a new group of creative agencies will be doing more the games, the gameplays, and all that kind of stuff.
So the consultants always adapt. So that's not I was part of Anderson Consulting when I was Anderson Consulting. That's how old I am. Okay, but I did consulting for a long time. But the thing is, like, the creating part is what's interesting. I mean, you mentioned agencies, but there's creators that are not part of agencies, and I'm not talking about influencers and all the stupid people. I'm talking about like real creators, people that see the value in the engine and the infrastructure, and they build something from that, right? And then basically the allegory of that into the enterprise is a low code, no code people, data scientists, and all this stuff. So there's a lot of people that are actually doing this. Let's talk a little bit about creators, which I said earlier. I want to talk a bit about how would you define a creator, or how would you differentiate a creator versus a consulting agency versus like a agency that may engage the creator? Do I need to have all of this stuff as part of my arsenal as an enterprise?
I think the consulting companies are still going to help figure out how to even organize, how to set up the organization around now the production of 3D assets and a 3D asset pipeline type of thing. It's not necessarily simple. It includes jobs for the IT organizations. It includes jobs for the engineers. It includes jobs for the designers internally, and a lot of all that. So some of it is IT restructuring, some of it is organizational restructuring. And I see consulting companies actually helping and needing to help there. Yes, consulting companies learn and adapt and learn new skills. All I'm saying is that right now it's not, they don't have crisp departments and skills yet. I think they're getting there. So I think that there is still a little bit of movement there. On the creative side, the agencies, the traditional advertising agencies, are missing a little bit of the, generally speaking, are missing a little bit of the 3D creation engineering power. And often they're also missing a little bit of the gameplay creation. So what kind of game should I create? What type of interactivity should I create that people will actually pay attention to? So what we're seeing, there are a lot of little tiny agencies popping up. And some are a little bit more than tiny. Some are 10 people, some are 5, some are 50 people. Popping up and being able to service this different type of enterprises. And by the way, some are more skilled for certain gaming platforms and some for others. I think over the next 2 years, it will be a very, very different environment, where obviously some of those will be purchased and inglobated in the larger agencies, and will have their arm doing that. And same thing on the consulting side. But for the next 2 years, sometimes what I found is that the partners, the clients externally, one of the hardest things that they have to do is not really determining roughly what they want to do, but who is going to be doing it for them. Not easy still.
But this is going to be a combination of all these people that you mentioned. It's not going to be one or the other, right?
Correct. But at the moment, it's even a little bit difficult to figure out who those are, what that combination should be, and part of that.
Well, if there only was a person who can help them figure that out, I wonder who could it be. But anyways, so we got about 10 minutes, and this is actually going really pretty much on time, because the last part that I want to talk about is your experience doing this, because I think that what you did was remarkable. I mean, I said this again, but you were given a world and you were told to monetize it. That's my interpretation. Probably not the way that was told to you, but that's my interpretation of it. And I think that is fascinating, because not only do you succeed at that, but I'm assuming you learned a lot about how to do it in the process.
Oh my God. I learned more in I learned more in the past 2-3 years than I did in like maybe 10-15 years of career prior to that.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the different things that Epic does and how well it does them, and also it's the topic and what's at hand that constantly changes. And lastly, I have to give myself kudos. I am incredibly entrepreneurial and creative when it comes to trying to figure out how to take something that's new, immersive technology, and using it and translating it and figuring out how to use it from a day-to-day perspective to create efficiency, but also to reach consumers in a different way. So yes, one of the ways that was showcased is this big partnership that I put together between LVMH and all of the 75 Maisons and Epic and the entire Epic ecosystem. Super exciting.
So give me like the top 1, 2, 3, any number of things that you learned that you think are remarkable that would actually help people understand how to do this better. I hate to say lessons learned because that makes it sound like there's only one way to do things. But what was it that you learned that in your mind are things that like change your perspective on how to do this and that can help people getting started?
I mean, for me, I wasn't coming from gaming per se. I was coming from 3D. So for me, being able to actually experience that, learn that, and understand and mix that between 3D and gaming was incredibly valuable. I think you'll find in the marketplace people that are really either they come from gaming or they come from the other side. I have a very unique perspective because I have both sides in that sense. If you can see the entire ecosystem, if you can see the entire go-to-market, all the different phases coming together, you can start seeing how you called it analog to digital, how the world is changing. And for me, what's incredibly exciting, I think it gave me the possibility to figure out how to reach consumers in the near future, and also figure out and help companies sometimes even come to. I think one of the lessons learned is these large conglomerates, and there are many of them in a variety of different industries of companies. Often they don't talk to each other, or they're separate, or they have different goals. Once you start putting the 3D or the analog to digital hat on that, they all have to like talk to each other and coordinate their work and come together. And that is one thing that I think I learned and I'm bringing with me.
And how would you do about embracing that? I mean, you say like it's simple, but you're saying it in my mind. I'm going like, I understand pieces of all the different worlds, and putting it all together, it's always been the most complex thing, right? But what is the like one thing that you learned that is like the best way to go about
it? If you understand that we're moving towards this digital, this physical plus digital, you can go back to the different parts of an organization or the different business units. You can start seeing what each one of them is doing in that specific area. And then if you have good leadership up top, you can have a strategy and you can have an execution, and even at the bottom level, a group of tools that can serve all those different parts of the organization at the same time in an efficient manner. I don't know if that's good enough.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. It's just you've done it and I haven't. So this is what I'm trying to figure out. What do I need to learn to do this? And then how do you go about the concept of monetizing? This is the part that you did exceptionally well. So once you figure all these things out and you start putting together and helping your customers understand 3D worlds and all this stuff, and how do you go about monetizing this? I mean,
monetizing
this is going to be critical. It
always comes from two different sides. On one side, it comes from reduction of costs, so increasing efficiency. Not having to produce samples physically, not having to create the car from the beginning immediately, not having to do post-production afterwards if you're doing a movie, all those kind of things. On the other, it comes from selling of digital products now, something that you were not doing before. So now you're selling a digital T-shirt. I'm just taking a very simple example.
No, it's fine.
Being able to sell a physical item from a virtual environment. So now you are in a virtual, whatever it is, in a game that now has a Sony. You're watching I don't know, an artist do something, and now you're buying something related to that artist physically, directly from something that you're watching virtually. And then it comes actually from the monetization or the creation of those games themselves. These are billions of dollars of it's a huge economy. Again, going back to it, I believe that the gaming industry, I believe that makes 10 times more than the entertainment industry at large. So there is that entire industry to consider, and it's not a little tiny thing.
And this, I mean, I don't know the number, but I think you're pretty much on target there. It's like it's a lot more money to be made there. But so how does an organization get comfortable about the idea that the analog world, you correspond the digital and the 3D, but I say there's like analog, digital, and 3D worlds. There's three different worlds, right? How does an organization embrace the idea or get comfortable with the idea that these three worlds should be equal? And I'll give you an example. So, for example, you said Eminem came in and dropped 3 songs virtually as part of a concert in this world, right? And I'll be honest, I love Eminem. I mean, I don't know much about it, but I love his songs. I think there's a magnificent artist, an incredibly smart person, and everything. But you don't make a lot of money selling digital T-shirts. I mean, you may make enough money, and like you said, there's no cost of production, but most of his money is going to come from what happens after, follow-up T-shirt sales, follow-up merchandise and things like that. How does somebody like Eminem become comfortable with saying, we're going to have a digital T-shirt that I don't even know what it is, but we're going to make money from, and we're going to have a real T-shirt, and we're going to have merchandise that will follow up the concert some days after? How do we correlate all these three things into being the same, or are they the same? Am I missing something here?
The idea is that they can be the same, yes, or they can be a little bit different, but kind of like the same thing. I don't know that he needs to become all that comfortable, because it's basically providing his own IP and giving it to create a variety of different environments or products, just like you do it for a physical T-shirt. You're doing it for a digital T-shirt. You still approve it at the end, and you determine what it is. And by the way, as far as production costs, there are tons of production costs to actually design it and make sure that it's displayed properly versus physically. But it's just, if you look at it, it's not either I do the physical T-shirt or I do the digital T-shirt or the virtual T-shirt. It's I'm doing this plus I'm doing that. So now my pie is bigger.
Excellent. And I love bigger pies. This is what I'm all about, by the way. I'm always talking about bigger pies, and not only eating, but also like in the business world. I believe that the bigger pie, more people eat. That's the best way to go. So that's good. So we got a couple of minutes before we get to the end. I've gone through pretty much everything that I wanted to, very, very briefly, because we could have I have only an hour and I could have dig deeper into a lot of things. But I'm getting an idea here that this is going to be, and I've been saying for a while, that this is going to be an incredibly important topic for organizations over the next decade. I mean, would you agree with that?
Completely.
Yes.
Completely.
Thank you. So given that, and in the last couple of minutes before we get to the wrap up, what are the two the things that organizations can do to A, better understand it, B, incorporate it to what they do, or C, play with it, test it out, or even D, embrace it and go to market with it? What are some of the things that organizations can do about this?
I think the CIO organizations really need to not just possibly consider this, but they need to start working on a plan to integrate these tools and to start changing their workflows to make them 3D workflows, and figure out in which part of the organization they should do that. So take your consultants, take whatever you want to help you do that. but they need to start going through that and figure out how to do it. The same way that they're doing it with AI, the same way that they're doing it with other things, because it's not like it's coming; it's already here, and they need to figure out how to do it. On the other, I think even outside of the CIO organization, the CEOs and the CSOs, they need to think of this as the way that things are and are going to be, and not as a test. The tests they've been done already, so they need to start connecting the different parts of the organization to increase basically the value of their companies. Again, decreasing costs or increasing them by monetizing, even creating new products that they didn't have before.
So you said that they need to start embracing and no worry about creation. This means they're already there, right? I mean, it's already out there, it already exists. So just get going, pick a use case, and go play with it and figure out how to do it.
Yeah, figure out within your organization, which way you want to go about it. Again, if I just take the example of a fashion company, if I want to start decreasing costs and being more efficient when I'm designing products, maybe you start from hard good products like shoes, because they're a little bit easier to do. They don't move as much. There are still less difficulties, and the technology is a little bit more set. You start working through that specific workflow, and you start organizing around that, and then you start planning for what comes next. It's just an example, a small example of things. Okay. If you want to start adding 3D viewers to your websites, so that you don't just see a product in 2D, but you start seeing it in 3D, you can turn it around, you can spin it. Well, then start going through the entire list of your products, figure out which ones you want to do first, second, and third, and fourth. Similarly, if you're a large retailer and you want to start moving from 2D images to 3D images, same thing. What's the plan you want to go about to do that? How do you change your workforce? How do you retrain your workforce to make sure that they can take 3D images now instead of just 2D images? What's the pipeline from an IT perspective? Where do you store these images, and how do you share them? And then how do you modify them? Who is going to be doing that? Those are all things that you need to think about.
Okay, so we got 1 minute. What am I missing? What didn't I ask you? What do you want to say that I didn't cover, or And it's okay if you said that I was perfect. I'm used to people saying that. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
You are absolutely perfect. It is a joy to be here.
Thank you.
I think I would just say, don't get stuck on a specific definition or a specific word that might be popular or not popular right now. Just stay with a specific concept. The concept is that we're moving into an environment where our virtual identity and physical identity and everything that we do will come together more and more. And so you have to do everything else necessary to be there with your consumers and to produce that same way.
Okay. So last part, I know that you're taking some time off through the rest of the year, and then you're going to go and do this again, perform some miracle again at some other company. We'd love to have you back when you land over there to talk more about this. We barely scratched the surface on this, I believe, but it's a good starting point for me. I had Panda for lunch, and basically, can you read that? Can I read that?
No, what does it say?
It says, "You are always entertaining and delightful."
That's for you.
No. This Panda basically knew that I was going to be talking to you, and actually gave me the fortune, so I can give it to you. So, always entertaining, delightful, incredible.
Once a month, I'll be happy to, if you give me all these compliments.
No, I can give you the compliments anytime, because you're amazing, man. I think that your career is fantastic, and from the first time that I talked to you, I knew that you would be doing something special, and I'd love to talk to you some more. We'll have you back some other time. Unfortunately, we're out of time today. I want to acknowledge a couple of the comments. Ron Shah talked about Roblox, which is another, you probably heard of it. It's like a mini version of Epic. I think that Roblox is a much more interesting story. Not more interesting, it's a very different and also very interesting story. I would love to talk about that. And finally, Paul mentioned a paradigmatic business model, which is a mouthful, but I believe that this is what we're getting into. It's a paradigm shift in the way we do business. I think that the 3D worlds, digital worlds, and and offline worlds are merging into a paradigmatic business model.
Yes.
With that, again, thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough. We'll talk some more. Join us next year for the last show of the year where we talk about everything that we learned. And we are out.
Bye. Thank you so